The meetings are televised and recorded, and audio and visual. So we start the meeting with call to order and roll call.
Eileen, here.
Present Gina Stino.
Hi, Paul Schubert.
Present Mary McGoldrick.
Present Paul Newbaney. Of course, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. So as is our custom, we start the meeting with an invitation to speak. Anyone in the audience? Comments? Good. Okay. So, is it all right to change the order a little bit and start talking about some administrative details?
Sure.
Okay, very good. Good. So,
Can you make a motion?
yeah, if you could.
Yeah. Okay, sure. This evening, we need to change the order on the agenda a little bit, so I would like to make a motion that we can do that for the chairman's convenience.
I'll second.
Like, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Good. So we have the number of administrative details that we wanted to kind of work out. The first is, tonight's meeting, as we know, in the budget update section, we're going to have a nice presentation from Dave, and we'll go through mostly the budget from the perspective of, what are the line items again, and what are ultimately the shortfalls. We won't tonight go into proposing solutions for those shortfalls per se.
I don't have a presentation ready. I thought we would just discuss.
Just a
little
discussion.
bit.
A generality.
Yeah,
That's
because
fine.
they don't have any handouts or anything.
Okay,
Right.
that's no
Right.
problem. So, because of that, and because our vote is on March 18th for the budget, given the cycle across the town, we felt like another meeting was in order, so we could bridge the gap and start talking at the March 11th meeting, which we would propose how we're filling the gap, and then of course on March 18th to vote. So if that works for everyone, wanted to propose a meeting on March 11th.
I
and
couldn't be
know
at that
it
one,
couldn't be
so,
it.
yeah,
That's
so
Helene,
that's a
but
problem.
It is a problem for you,
Yeah.
and we'll have to bring you up to speed because as we discussed, Helene's not available any other day between now
Well,
and
I
the 18th.
am available March 16th.
March 16th.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't think that's enough time to
And,
cover we can meet again, but I think we need a longer gap of time there
And
to
I'm
deal with
also
the
available
issues.
March 17th.
Okay, we can probably meet those 2 dates, so if those work for people, but not for this purpose, or maybe as an additional. So why don't we plan, if we can, a meeting on March 11th, which was the date
Well, I
the
don't
governance
have
meeting
March 11th.
we were planning.
Yeah.
But the governance meeting, it turns out that there was some miscommunication. Helene didn't put it in the calendar.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really miscommunication. At the end of the meeting, I had to go set up for the safe harbor, and you guys came up with March 11th, and no one told me.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't
So-
miscommunication.
So the communication got
Yeah.
awry, or what we
Correct.
say?
So I prefer no budget on March 11th or no nothing on March 11th.
Well, we need
Yeah.
the budget on March 11th because there's not enough time, unfortunately, between the 18th and the 17th or the 18th and the 16th. We might need those meetings as well, I think, to properly address these issues. But certainly the governance is less urgent. It would be nice, but we can move that around, I think.
Well, maybe we could do
that's
March
a good
10th.
compromise. I thought you weren't available.
Well, we're supposed to, Ellen's here, she could tell us when we're done with our little presentations for
The
the
career night, that's 6 to 9.
Actually at 8:30.
Katie and I are presenting at the Board of Selectmen on March 10th.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so why don't we plan a meeting on March 11th then? And we could start, so, I don't know if you can come late or anything, or Helene, if it would be helpful.
Well, I didn't know, I have patients scheduled, so.
Okay, so shall we just start at
The regular time?
the regular
7.
time, 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
Okay, and that's all we'll do is focus on the budget, and it'll be easy for you to get you up to speed, the budget anyway.
What time did you say again? 7?
7 o'clock on March 11th,
So then, Paul, would you like me to contact Dorothy?
if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Okay.
Um,
How about we start like this? I'll ask her what dates she might have available,
Right.
and we'll start there.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. And at this point, it might be wise to wait until, obviously, after March 18th, after we've at least voted our budget. But we need to be mindful, we're gonna be going to the selectmen and going to the advisory and things like that, so it's gonna be
Right.
busy.
Okay,
Okay, but I'll see what she has.
thank you, that's great. Okay, and, that will work. Okay, and sorry we can't all be making those dates work, but we'll divide and conquer a little bit. Okay, and then, other dates just to keep in mind, of course, we have Career Night on March 10th, which is really exciting, and there are some negotiations on March 17th and March 26th. So I wanted to clarify there too. On March 17th at 4 o'clock and March 26th at 4 o'clock. Those dates, I think we talked, Helene, that you may or may not have been
Which
available.
dates?
And we were gonna put
17th.
Jean in as your alternate perhaps, the
And the
17th and the 26th?
And the 26th, I'm available.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no problem.
both of those are no problem,
No, the
Just the
26th is no
26th.
problem. 17th I'm working.
okay, and does the 17th work for
Yes.
you? Okay,
Yep.
So that'll
All
be
right.
fine.
I've taken care of that.
Oh, you know,
Great,
the other
great.
day we could do a budget thing is the 9th, but that doesn't give us a lot of time to post for the budget. That's a Monday night.
That's next Monday.
yeah, I actually can't do it myself.
can't do it.
I can't do that, okay.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, good idea though.
It's also the spring sports meeting, that's not a
Yes.
good
Oh,
night
right,
to
yeah,
have,
yeah.
people are gonna
Okay.
be.
So anyway,
busy.
we're okay.
Okay, so we have the 17th teachers negotiations. Jean will serve as the alternate.
And you're able to make it at 4, just to make sure?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
The
David, what
26th will be
yeah,
for me. Okay.
David, what are you doing for the budget on the day of the 11th? What is you're just gonna do a
Well,
We're-
We're just talking about it now. I mean, I think
yeah,
what
we
we
were
would
just talking about now,
what we would propose,
the
I
plan
think,
is.
is a line by line review of where we are. Talk about again, familiarize ourselves tonight, and again then about what the gap is, and then really start brainstorming about how we're going to fill the gap.
I would like to offer that if there are any handouts that are given to us, I
Yeah.
will pick up an extra set for you, Helene, and drop them in your mailbox on my way home.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, the other thing I could
Nice.
handle is if we did it in the morning on the Wednesday before work.
I can't do that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So, but anyway,
Particularly not now.
so you're gonna do a line to line type of thing
Yeah.
that we normally do in here.
If you don't mind, Dave, that would be great.
Yeah.
Normally,
I mean,
we
we
were
can go
gonna do
over-
that on
I
the
mean-
18th. We were gonna do that
But
on
we're
the
gonna be
18th.
voting on the
It-
final line
The
items.
problem
Yes.
is, I mean, to
Right.
be exact,
The
the
eight-
problem
well-
is we're very far over our budget number right now. And-
Correct.
And
300
we,
oh,
you know, in
300,000.
fairness to the town, we need to look at where the gaps are and what we might have to change in
Yes,
the
we've always
budget in
done
order to
that.
make it that 0 point
Mhm.
that we're not overextended. And so we are sitting with the principals currently looking at how can we modify what their needs are
Mhm.
in order to meet the number we've been given by Chris Senior, and at the same time to show that we're servicing students appropriately and giving them maximum opportunities.
Mhm.
So really to do that on the 18th, I don't think is
Yeah,
fair to
we
the
don't.
committee or the
Got it.
community to try to cram it in one evening and take a vote at the same time. So we're asking for the
Right.
11th to give the committee an opportunity to really
And
think
it'll
about
be
it.
here.
Yes, and then you'll
Yes.
be able to understand.
Well,
really
that's
what's
the other
going
thing,
on.
where it's
Right.
going to be, and I know Mrs. Steiner has her hand up, I don't know if you want the where be, or you want.
No, you do yours first.
Okay, so the other question is, of
I'm
course.
not putting my hand down though.
I'll remember if you
I-
want. You can-
So the other question is, of course, because it will then tie into the public hearing and everything else, we were recommending the public hearing be at the library at the high school. And then Don Roy offered his studio, which can hold up to 40 people, if we wanted to hold it in the studio. And if that's the case, do you want me to ask if all our meetings can be held there until we're back in place?
Right.
Or do you prefer to stay at the town hall here? We need the committee to really weigh in on that.
Do we have audio visual in all those places?
In the studio,
In the
you mean in the
studio,
cable
yeah.
studio,
Oh,
right
you're talking
there.
about cable studio?
Yes.
Okay.
We do a cable studio in the high
Sure.
school.
Yes.
So that's
So
where
they
you
wouldn't
have
have to
March
do any
11th.
setup,
Well, I'm
if
asking.
we decide on the library, there's a lot of setup, background stuff that they have to do to prepare for that.
Right,
so.
so,
How accessible is the studio? I don't know.
you walk right through the library and there's a door.
It's in the right in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess my biggest concern would be just, I would hope that there would be some community involvement and participation that evening, and
Right.
just how many, it might be more comfortable in the library, for folks, just for size.
That, it's completely up to the committee. We were weighing all those options, but we wanted to present it to the committee since he had presented it to us.
Okay. So why don't we try? If the library is available, let's do it there.
But you
For
wanted
the
the library
18th.
versus in the studio.
Yes.
Okay.
And then for the 11th, of course, we'll just be here if it's available. Right? Or
Up to you whether you wanna do it in the studio right there and have me ask him, or you want to do it here in town hall. Either way, you'll have whatever you need for audio.
Yeah,
Audio
people-
visual.
People know this place, let's stay here if it's available,
fine.
if the selectmen don't
Okay.
need it, obviously.
So town hall on the 11th and then library on the 18th.
Okay, okay,
And I'm gonna try to see if I could switch my I only have 2 clients at night to Monday night, cause I just noticed I have one scheduled at 6 PM anyway,
great.
on Monday.
So if because of the strange kind of constraints where the school committee room isn't available, I would like to recommend that maybe we get a copy of the recording to you if you cannot attend. So at
Yeah,
least you
I should be able
can
to.
hear
I
the
just
conversation.
realized that I am seeing somebody at 6 on Monday, so hopefully I'll be able to switch.
Okay.
Okay, alright, so in summary, we're gonna meet on the 11th at 7 PM right here. We're
Right
gonna meet
here.
on the 18th at 7 PM right here.
Yeah.
We
So
have,
we're not gonna switch it.
we have negotiations on the 17th and the 26th,
Mhm.
at, locations TBD.
18th is the
With
library.
Jean
To
on
be
the
determined.
17th and Helene on the 26th.
So to repeat, the 18th, at one point you said in the library and then you just said here. So I just wanna make sure that we hear the same thing.
The 18th is at the library, you're right, because we want a bigger
I just wanna
place
make
with more
sure.
public
Yes.
participation. Thank
The
you for
18th is at
correcting.
the library.
Okay, selectmen
The
library.
high school library.
Yes.
Right. Okay, great,
Thank you, Jean.
alright.
That would be on the
You
agenda.
just
So-
never know.
No,
Yeah,
you'd be on the agenda.
alright.
And we should have a sign here just in case, cause people get confused.
That's good,
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe at the school committee normal meeting place too.
Correct, so, yeah.
Okay, alright, one last administrative thing, sorry for taking these up front. The minutes taker, we wanted to talk about, so, do I introduce it? You introduce it?
Well, I had brought up to Paul that obviously you don't have a minutes person here yet, and I know we have talked to Tracy about doing it, and I haven't provided anything formal, but I think Tracy, I gave you a sample of her notes last time, because that would be the type of notes that she will take, and you have to tell me that's acceptable for you. I don't wanna bring her in and then not have it be acceptable.
I think the consensus, if unless someone says otherwise, that was that the minutes that were included in the package, both from that other school committee and
The
from
North Andover.
Tracy, all seemed acceptable to us.
Right, taken out of context, it was confusing about why they were even in there. You know, we just figured it was an example of minutes.
Well, Dorothy Press had recommended I use North Andover as a good sample,
Right.
so that's why
Yeah.
I chose North Andover at her suggestion.
So we'll extend the invitation to Tracy.
Sure, I'll talk to her tomorrow,
Right.
Okay,
not a problem.
and if she was available, she would
If
start
she's
as
still
soon as the
available and
11th.
interested, otherwise we will make other arrangements fairly quickly.
Okay.
Going back, just to repeat this, the governance, the person who came, Cynthia?
Dorothy.
Dorothy. I just think she needs a little guidance to help us out here. I think that what she went over was really stuff that was repetitive, that we got a lot of that in the Mass Association of School Committee, conferences, and I just didn't find it as helpful as it could be. I think what I recommend, since, this board has had some tension over the last couple of years, especially some members with the superintendent and therefore with us, that we do something that is more interpersonal, cause I think that would be helpful. Especially cause you're losing your psychologist after whatever, and I can't help you next year. And I feel bad about that in some way because things have not been resolved. And I wanna go on record as saying that, because I think that sometimes, the minority opinions on this board, we have not been able to work that through, and some of the tension, part of what a school board is supposed to do is work well with the superintendent. That is our job. And that is not true that every person on this board has been working well with the superintendent. And I think a governance thing could help us with that. It's an outside, person. I certainly have tried in the last few years or whatever. And I just think that that would be more useful than going through the notes that were almost identical to what I got in handouts in the notebook.
Right.
Yes.
So,
If I could just make a quick comment?
please.
And I'm just gonna interject myself here because I attended her workshop at the Mass Conference about what the governance project
Right.
is able to do.
Mhm.
So I think just keeping in mind that it's a seminar series that's 5 or 6 meetings all told, varying from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I think the initial one, my impression was a lot of information gathering and just her laying out, what an effective board does. She has provided, the materials back, she's compiled all the information in terms of the worksheets we filled out. And given that we were gonna have to postpone our March 11th date, I'll ask her if there's anything we could work with within that, but maybe we could also ask what her roadmap is going forward, so then we could work with her a little bit, as you suggested, just in what we feel
Well,
like we need to work on.
That's interesting. I care less about her roadmap, I care more about our needs. And I think, a good 2-hour session or whatever, I'm trained in group process, and I'm sure that their governance people are trained in group process, could help us in this regard. So she may have a roadmap, but it may not meet some of the needs that I think the board has. You know, I think it's been, we act polite, we're very respectful of each other, but in a lot of ways, it's been a 2-3 type of thing, and, some problems, and that's serious problems moving forward. And, we're gonna bring in new people, and I want to make sure that we work out our problems before we bring in new people. Cause
So I
otherwise,
might-
we're gonna continue.
Right. I might suggest that you know, if you would like to also reach out to Dorothy and maybe let her know your perspective a little bit and see if she can integrate that into her so-called curriculum. You know, I'm sure she'd be welcome to hear your feedback directly, especially because you have a
Right.
position of knowledge, you know, based on your career and everything. So that would be really helpful.
I'm totally cool about Mary doing that. I think that you get the gist of it, you know, and I think it's confusing to have more than one person communicating with her. You know, I respect that you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Oh, no,
I just I'm less interested in her roadmap. I'm more interested in her seeing some of, a person who was chair for 2 years and been on the school board almost now 6, concerns moving forward and identifying a need, you know, because otherwise you're gonna be in the same position after I leave.
Right.
And I work really hard to get this board working well, listening well, you know, functioning as a unit. And that hasn't happened, well, you know, at times. And certainly, our main task is to have good communication with every member of the board, with the superintendent, and that hasn't happened. And so,
I think we have the gist of that
Yes.
message then.
yeah,
Okay.
so, you know, to see what she could do about that. I mean, there's a lot of things, there's a mini version of the Myers-Briggs in terms of just jumping off, about different, styles, and that could be part of it to begin a conversation, to identify, you know, each of our members' different styles. I'm sure Paul, being a business person, is familiar with the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, TJ.
And there's some other things, but it's group process type of thing. And also, one of our biggest responsibilities, like I said, communicating each of us individually in a respectful way with the superintendent, and superintendent with us, each of us
Okay.
individually.
Yeah, I just wanna say that, I think the initial meeting, I think, was introductory, and that was ideal, and I think it behooves us to ask what we need fixed and helped, and I'm sure she's willing to,
What do you mean, ask,
of her, see, you know, how do we.
she doesn't really know us that
No,
well.
I know, but to have a way and means of getting us to work better together. I mean, we brought her in for that purpose,
Yeah,
so-
but I think she needs to hear the problem, which I addressed,
Right.
and then Mary can go back to her and say, this has
Yes,
been a
I
concern.
don't think there should be a problem, I think
Yeah.
she'd be very willing, and that's
Correct,
her goal.
correct. But I think she is a consultant type person and hasn't really had the opportunity or the time to talk to each one of us about what we observe. So she's not gonna be able to devise a program, and figure out what we need unless we give her feedback.
Right.
So-
Well, and so I think that's
Yeah.
sort of like you said, you know, that's
Right.
part of the 5-step.
Correct,
You know, by meeting 2, meeting 3, she knows us a little better. Maybe by meeting 4, she's making recommendations. You know, that's why I think it'd be useful for us to give her your feedback
correct,
and see how she can tailor it for
Cool.
us.
that's
Okay.
fine.
All right, great. So then, I think we've covered everything except for one more administrative item. So the superintendent's review is typically done, as we know, the end of year review, so sort of around April, and we didn't really have a midterm review between snow and delays and everything, floods and all these issues,
Travel.
budget, and so the question really is, you know, how do we all feel about having the superintendent's final review with the team that's in place now, given that, various composition of the board is gonna change, and basically skipping the midterm review, which I think the superintendent is comfortable with, and we'll have to ask for your feedback, and doing just an end of year review. Is that characterizing it?
Yeah, I think the problem is if you put in as much time as you do, and usually the mid-eval has been 2 meetings and the final eval's been 2 meetings, essentially you only have 4 meetings left till the end of the rollover, and
Right.
40% of you will be gone.
Right.
So, I said to Paul, it's really up to you as a board to make this decision, it's not up to me. But I don't know the comfort level of what you wanna do, so I said, to put it out there, it would be, I think it would not be a good use of the committee's time to do a mid-cycle in March and then turn around in the next meeting and say, okay,
Right.
now it's time for the final.
Right.
It was an extraordinary
So-
winter, it's not typically how it's done, but I think the committee has to decide as a committee what you want.
When was the initial, the last review done?
Well, we did the goals in October.
Okay.
So if you're trying, and the way that it's now done is sort of you try to do it in a year-long process. We're kind of been pushing it into an 8-month process, even when the school year's 10 months. And the work year's 12 months. So,
Okay.
but at this point, I mean, if you wanted to do it in October, then clearly, if you wanna do a mid-cycle now, you clearly would not do a summative for another 6 months.
Right.
This is 6 months now, but you wouldn't do a summative for 6 months, so now you're in the fall.
Mm-hmm. So how do people feel about that?
I think it's good to, if the superintendent is comfortable with that. The whole thing about the mid-year review of anybody, whether it be your supervisor or somebody you're supervising or a professor with the class when I was teaching and thing, it just gives a person some feedback so that they can indeed make some changes. So it puts you in a position of not having that opportunity to get feedback, and then you get your final evaluation. So if you're comfortable with that not occurring, there could be a mitigating way to do this. If you want us to meet with you individually and give you some feedback, that is another way. What do you think,
That-
Mary?
I was just gonna say,
Mary and I think alike
last year,
sometimes.
last year you called us all in and it was about in the middle of the year and it would seem like this might be a good time.
If you can't do a summit, mid-year.
And then I would also say, given the fact that we are in the middle of the governance project, that does lend itself, if there's something that really seems to stand out with any of the conversations, to bring it forward and deal with it as a group, while the 5 of us are still here.
Right, okay.
And you might decide after talking on a one-on-one basis that you wanna put it, do a mid and then do October. I don't wanna press the committee
Right.
to do a mid-cycle, which then you turn around, the next meeting you start a summative. There's no place to make any changes anyway.
Right. Well, if we start meeting with you individually now, I think there can be some time. And I think it makes sense, you don't wanna have new people come in and evaluate the superintendent, I think that's awkward. I think it's better to be the board that's worked with you.
Right, well, that's why I was leaving it within your purview.
Right.
Okay.
So I kinda remember having to, did we have to do that first year that we were on the board? Like, we jumped in and then we had to evaluate, that was really awkward.
Well, that's why I would say it would be if you did
Yes.
the mid-cycle now and then did a final in October, then that's a full year cycle from the time the goals went out. And then the other, if you're rolling through a board, you have about
Right.
5 months with new members, but again, it's up to the purview of the committee.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I just think it's better to do it with us,
Okay.
because that 5
do you
months
think,
is
Steve?
over the summer and stuff,
Okay.
and part of
Well, everybody in agreement?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think that it's not really appropriate to push it. I think that the seated committee now needs to be the committee
Right.
that does this year's evaluation.
Mhm.
And there are enough meetings that we could do, like the second meeting in April, we could do our review and comments. And then the first meeting in May, you could present the summary of all of that. And then Helene will still be on the committee until that Saturday, so, and
That's perfect.
Dr. Schubert also.
Right. Mhm.
Okay.
So I think that makes
Can,
sense.
can you repeat those dates, please?
Sure.
The
Sometimes it's
15th?
good to have paper.
He's kinda stupid.
April 15th,
It would be the what? That would be the.
that would be the the discussion of Mrs. Cataldo's, performance
Okay, and then
evaluation. And then May sixth would be the final, where you would take the comments and put them together, and we would review them.
the collation, right?
Yep.
Okay,
So the 15th,
and the 15th is the second meeting because of the,
Right.
and then the
spring break.
6th is,
The 6th.
is the final, yes,
Right, and that would be yours and Dr. Schubert's final school committee meeting
6th, right,
before the election.
yes,
So
right,
there's-
and that's when we, actually deliver the evaluation.
Right,
Exactly.
but I think that it would be very helpful for us to have the forms with the goals inserted like we did last year,
Yes,
well in advance of that.
Maybe even at the first, the
Maybe at
second
the
meeting in
first-
March,
Yeah,
you know. So let's say, and what date is the second meeting in March?
the second meeting in March is the
It's
18th,
the, yeah, it's the 3 now, so now it's the 18th,
right.
okay.
And we wouldn't be doing anything
Just
with
a-
them,
just a
you
handout.
know, so we wouldn't be taking time from that important budget meeting, we would just,
Right, just handing out
It
the
would just be
material.
the handout.
What's the 18th? Oh, yeah.
when
the
we
second
receive
week.
all of
Right,
the
right.
paperwork
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
evaluation.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, all right,
Barring floods,
that's good.
we've lost so much already.
All right, that's a good process. So March 18th, we'll get the evaluation materials to us. April 15th, we'll discuss, and then May 6th, we'll collate and submit the final of the evaluation. And then we can decide, the new committee, I suppose, can decide how we want to handle the next 12 months. Okay, great. So thank you for entertaining all that administrative action.
And now go home and take it easy.
You know,
Really?
somehow this is making me feel so much better.
But it's not making us feel so much
You're
better.
not sitting in a cubicle concentrating, it helps.
Yes.
So we'll take it away with the superintendent's report.
Okay.
So do you wanna review the
Do you want the
FY
report?
16 budget again, or?
Do you want,
what-
well,
what
let
is
me
it?
ask you, because if you're not up to
No.
where you normally are, do you want me to start proceeding through? Cause you jumped over the minutes, so I don't know if you wanna keep moving
No,
the
I think
minutes
we
down
should
the
do
line
that.
and do the report
Yeah,
or what?
you're right. We should go back to the minutes and approve the minutes and then go to the superintendent's report.
Are you sure you wanna stay?
I'll probably jump out within the next
Okay,
5 minutes.
okay.
Thank you, though.
So you wanna do the minutes
Gonna
next?
stick with the snow day?
Yeah, that's what I call it. So, all right, so approval of the minutes. I guess everyone's had a chance to review the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of November 5th, 2014?
So moved?
Any discussion?
A second.
Yeah, you need to take a second.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, very good. Discussion?
Okay, just one little point. Under use of facility, where we discussed the application of AA, I think there's one little typo. Other membership ensure, I think it should be other members ensure that attendees have access to one area of the school at all times.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Excellent. So,
I do have some comments though after we're done with it,
Generic.
Questions,
Oh.
Okay.
questions, not comments, questions.
okay. So we need a vote to approve the minutes of November 5th.
I make a motion
We
to
already have
approve the minutes
a
on
motion.
November.
Right.
We just
Fifth?
had a
Yeah,
vote.
it's just a vote at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye. Motions are approved. Minutes are approved.
okay. Can I
Okay.
just ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
I'm just curious how the trip went to the University of New Hampshire. Have you had any feedback on that? Because we didn't, there was no date, and I think it was recent, but
It was, but I've not had the feedback yet.
I'm just curious, so if we could get
Find
that,
out.
that'd be great. And then also, under the Osgood generator section, was that taken care of?
Nope,
I'm sorry?
nope,
No?
it wasn't.
Have we asked Capital for their thoughts?
What we originally talked, yes, I mean, it's been put off to the side for years. The issue, of course, now is that the generator at Deer Hill needs to be fixed. And that's more important because it has the EOC,
Yeah.
so that will get priority at this point.
I
Yeah,
don't know,
'cause
just-
that's the emergency center.
Right.
Exactly, exactly. So, and this was done obviously before it went down.
Right. Can we perhaps get a review by a company that would fix these things so that we have an idea what the cost is?
I can ask Mark, Mark's been overseeing all of this, Mark
Okay.
Kelly.
I mean, even just, a sheet of paper that tells us what this,
I'll ask
what is,
Brian
what is
Joyce.
needed in those two locations would
I'll
be good?
tell Brian Joyce that you requested that.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, and then one other thing, I think there's a question as to the minutes when I was gone as to why they're out of order and where these minutes were, so this set of minutes came to me the day before the packet had to go out, and we just couldn't go through them before they had to go out. So the intent was that they would be here. As for the October minutes, we never received them, we don't know, Jane sent, it didn't arrive to Jennifer or myself, Jane was kind enough to resend them today, and they'll be in the next packet, but we weren't in possession of them, if you were wondering why they weren't part of the packet.
So what minutes are outstanding at this point?
The October,
Both meetings.
No,
no,
we
you
did
did
the
October
the
first,
first
the
meeting, the
second
second
meeting in
meeting.
October,
15.
you did this one, so now you have the second meeting in November, you have 2 meetings in, December.
Okay.
So 5, what's the other?
Yeah. So, they'll
It's
come
not too
along,
many
but
if
I
they're
did
all
want the
like
committee
this.
to
Yeah.
know that
It's easy.
there was
They're
no
easy to
intent
read.
to, you know,
Mhm.
not have them there, they just came, this set came too late, and, Jane spoke with me and thought it was odd that we put November in this week and didn't put October, and I said, we didn't have them, so she was kind enough to resend them.
Okay. And then where are we with, I can't remember, with January and February minutes?
Well, actually, I can't remember what we were doing during January, so I'll have to look, who was it January, I think Jane may have had the first January,
Okay.
I can't remember about the second,
think
and
we
then I
did the
did
second.
February.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So we're getting there.
I think we did January. Yeah.
Jane did the 21st.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
did she?
Jane did
Okay.
January, cause I didn't start till the first meeting in February.
Yeah. Just
So-
a question, is everything working out at the senior center for you guys?
Well, actually, yes, it is, but you'll find this an irony after we obviously were flooded out of our offices on Monday. The fire alarm went off and the sprinkler had froze and broke open.
Oh my goodness.
And the firemen
Outside.
Oh.
the
It was
firemen
outside.
showed up
That
and
was
said,
good.
really? So, we're feeling a little insecure right now, so they are having some roof issues unto themselves, but that has nothing to do with
Correct.
anything we've
Yeah.
done, and they're working on it diligently.
There's no where you guys are.
No,
And that's
no.
all under warranty probably. Cause
Oh, I'm sure it is, I'm sure it is, and then as for, not to sidetrack, but as for what's going on in our own quarters, I am meeting with the insurance adjuster tomorrow, he would like to do a walk around, cause yesterday he, talked to me about the fact that he hadn't heard anything and was concerned, so he's coming tomorrow,
Great.
so.
Okay. Shall I move into the superintendent's report?
Yes, so, just going right in order, special education presentation, we have Mary Buchanan here, our new Director of Student Services, and I think she's gonna highlight a few things, and then we'll come back later and do a more extensive presentation. But we wanted to give her an opportunity to stop in and at least give you some of the highlights of what's been happening this year, which is really quite smooth.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Oh,
Welcome.
Have people received the, student service? I saw that you had
Yes.
that, Mary. Did
I don't
people
have it.
receive? So I brought a
No,
copy.
No, I don't have any.
This went out this week,
Oh, it's in an email.
Yes,
went out,
Yes,
so it's on
yeah,
Blackboard
okay.
Connect.
Yeah, yeah, I thought you meant in our packet.
It was
Sorry.
Blackboard Connect?
Yeah,
Are
so
you
would
attending
like-
it? Are you getting that? Or you wanna
No,
send
I
it
wouldn't
along?
get it, cause I don't have a kid in school.
So, it actually, we're gonna work, when we do this again towards the spring. Which is
Whenever that
July. So that we have something that it can go out, from my department. Right now, I had it go from, the middle high school, and then, it went from the Deer Hill School, both by Blackboard, and then at the, at Osgood, it went in, students' backpacks.
Okay.
So I would like it so that it all went out in one thing, but I really, it took a long time to get this formatted, and the information together. I have to say that Diane Hirth, really, the information was mine, but she did the, formatting, and, at one point, she was a little tired of being doing my editing, so, but it was, trying to get Apple to, other computers. So we do have to work on that, but I was excited that we were able to put this together, and I think it gives a nice highlight of some of the things that we've been able to do this year. So for professional development district-wide, we've had CAST, which is the Center for, sorry, I need glasses. Center for Applied Special Technology. That's a nonprofit research and development company. They're up in Wakefield, Mass. They've been around for probably 30 years. They are just coming back into being sort of popular again. And what they're doing is they came in and they presented to all of our professional staff. Our last PD day in January, they presented, and they're using the concepts of UDL, so Universal Design for Learning, which is making, so you sort of designing curriculum at the beginning so that more students have access to it. So it's not just differentiating, it is really that you're starting with a plan to have access, so more students have access. So that's something that we did district-wide. We also provided professional development for Kurzweil for all of our special education teachers, speech and language, and occupational therapists. Kurzweil is a text-to-speech technology, and it's not just, you put something in, it has a lot of other features. So we did spend a full day doing that. We brought somebody in and we have that loaded on all of our computers. We have a district-wide license, so students can have it loaded onto their computers. They can use it at home, so it's something that you can use in a lot of different areas. And our special education teachers are beginning to use that. It is also considered a resource for our English as a second language students, and we do have some of those. So they are, we have an iPad that at Deer Hill has actually been loaded with that, and they just started to use that this week. So that's kind of exciting.
Excuse me, how many students do we have that English is a second language?
We have
a
3
couple
students.
Russian students, right?
We have 3 students that are identified as needing direct instruction as with English language learner instruction.
And do you know their primary language, their first language?
Yes.
Russian?
No.
No? What was their
Sounds
first?
like it can't be disclosed.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
I know.
exactly.
Where it's
Yeah.
only 3,
Okay,
I would
yeah.
be uncomfortable,
Yes.
sharing that, but, so we are, it's exciting that administrators are now getting certified so that they can evaluate teachers, and we also are now able to, have teachers starting to get enrolled in classes. It's kind of a catch-22 situation. You can't actually have a teacher go in and take the course unless they have a student in their classroom. The state has been providing the training, but it's only on a as-needed basis for low-incident districts. So we now have teachers that can get certified and get that training, and the same thing with principals. So at this point, Mr. LeCount and Carolyn and Carrie Sandler are all in one course, and I'm in another course. So we're all getting, I have 2 classes left, which is very exciting, and none of mine have been snowed out. Everybody else's have had snow days, so that's kind of exciting. The school psychologists have been trained, they've gone to all the training for WISC 5. This year, they've gone in a couple of different places. So we're excited to be using that. A lot of the cognitive testing and achievement testing is now going from pencil and paper over to online versions.
Another question, quick. Do you have people who speak the language, their first language, so in case there's some issues?
No,
Okay. Well,
that's not a requirement that
Right.
they have
I'm
to.
just concerned about that, when we have students who.
I'd be willing to do a field trip to the countries where they're from
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
try to recruit, no.
Yeah.
No, ESL instruction typically
Yeah.
is done by a teacher that
Right.
has the strategies in order to help the student.
Yeah, I was an ESL instructor, so I know about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just real helpful if there's people in the community or somebody who speaks their language as a resource. They've done that in other schools. It doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher, just for urgent basis, if there's somebody who you can identify in the community. But if you don't.
So when meeting with the parents if they requested a translator, we would provide a translator for
Good.
that's a requirement.
Exactly.
But the students are proficient enough in English to have that instruction. They need additional remediation in English instruction.
Cool.
And language acquisition. So professional development, we've also worked on professional development for the ESPs, with educational support personnel, in all the different buildings. So we've provided professional development on an IEP walkthrough, what an IEP looks like, the individual education programs. So just sort of what it looks like, how to understand the accommodation, what the goals and services are, and that was, I think, helpful for them to understand the language that is in there. One of the requirements of a special education teacher is that they really are not just handing somebody a piece of paper that, is that you read this, it really is that you are explaining exactly what it means. And so we have done that. Disability awareness, we did that with all the disability categories in Massachusetts, different strategies, what it looks like, different interventions that work. And I have to say that, so it was, those half-day professional developments have been conducted at a middle school level and an elementary school level, and I've done a few of the workshops, and I'm really excited that the ESPs have really been very invested in the process, and they're excited to be learning about good strategies. We had one today that was on working with reluctant students and motivational strategies, and somebody had said, it's really a lot of, it's nice to know where some of the good teaching that we're doing and the good practices are coming from. It's nice to sort of have that validation as to what we're doing is good. So it was nice. We did differentiated instruction. We had a presenter come in from Rebus Associates, and she did a full day presentation. That was our full day that we had in January. They attended that. Motivational strategies, we did that today. Data collection has been done. Behavioral strategies will be coming up over the next few, we have 2 more sessions. Behavioral strategies and strategies for executive functioning will also be done, as well as attention and social thinking. So we're going to use strategies from both Sarah Ward for the executive functioning, and then social thinking we'll use strategies from Michelle Garcia Winner. So we're going to use that with the ESPs. All professional staff have done the CAST. Special education teachers have done the Kurzweil 3000. And then selected teachers have done Wilson overview training so far, executive functioning, social thinking, and language-based instruction. We've been using Accept Collaborative. They seem to have quite a bit of professional development that really has been guided towards what our needs are. We have the 2 special ed facilitators that are at the elementary school level and the secondary level. I think that the IEP meetings have been going well. I think the communication has improved. We're working on transitioning between grades as well as between buildings. When I came, that seemed to be an area of concern, is transitioning, especially from 2 to 3. It was something that I heard repeatedly. So we have, the facilitator has worked diligently to sort of start to include 3rd grade teachers and related service providers that will be working with students. And really we're starting the spring IEP season with, sort of transition. So that's something that we're excited about. The special ed facilitators have also gone to professional development, writing standard-based IEPs, and facilitating IEP meetings, and then also legal requirements for conducting IEPs. That's constantly changing animal, where you constantly need professional development and updates on sort of how the legal requirements change. So that's sort of a little bit of an overview as to some of the things that we've done regarding professional development. We are excited to be having Wilson Language Reading Systems come in and provide a 3-day overview for 30 staff. So we have all of our special education teachers from grades kindergarten through 12 that will be attending on the St. Patty's Day, 17th, 18th, and 19th, so everybody can wear green if they'd like. So everybody will have that initial 3-day training. We also have selected, we have the reading specialists from the elementary school level that will also be participating in that, and then we have selected general education teachers that we want to also be trained. From that, we have committed to doing 10 staff doing the level 1 training, and that will start in September. We're sort of at their, we're at Wilson's sort of, they get to pick and choose when the classes start. I did beg to have the 3-day overview this spring, so that will happen. And so we'll have 10 staff that'll do the level 1 in the fall of, in September this year, and that's a year-long course. So 10 people will have level 1 certification, and then the following year we've committed to do additional 10. So at that point, all of our special education staff will be Wilson trained, so they can provide that specially designed instruction in reading. So I was very excited to be able to get that in place. So those are some of the things. We've secured our summer school dates for extended school year services, not summer school, but the extended school year services. And we will post those positions for the extended school year before April, and hopefully have candidates selected before the April vacation.
Excellent.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
'Cause it was actually in our minutes. Were you able to find somebody to fill the middle school language-based program?
Yes, we do.
And
We
that was
have.
kind of a quick departure.
It was a quick departure. It was a quick arrival and
Yeah.
a quick departure.
Too
So yes, we have a certified special education teacher. She has done the Wilson 3-day overview. She is starting, in the spring, she'll be starting the, level 1 Wilson training. She's gone to our language-based, instruction. She's also gone to executive functioning training as well. I think that according to, the assistant principal and principal, she's really making a nice transition, working well, collaborating with other teachers. I think she really has the students' best interest at heart, and I think she's really working diligently.
That's pretty cool.
She's also she's a certified special education teacher. She'll also have her master's degree in reading in May.
Awesome.
So that's exciting. Given that, it was a December, before Thanksgiving departure, and we had her start on December 1st. So it was good. And she's really, I think she's working really well with the students.
That's great.
Excellent. Cool.
Is there anything you need from us, or want us to?
Careful.
What you ask?
That's an
Yeah.
awesome question.
Any issues?
No, with special education, it's always funding. We have, kids that, out of district needs always are changing. And, I think being able to provide as much programming as we can provide within the district, as long as that's meeting the needs of children, is the most important thing. And I think that we're doing, a nice job with, our students that are within the district. And I think that we're, developing a skill set for teachers and really making it so that special education is specially designed instruction and not just extra help.
And how have the students been doing with all this disruption because of the weather? I mean, as it is, you have students who
Yeah.
are on the spectrum, and
Yes.
I know in my professional capacity as a psychologist, I've been loaded with students because of just the pressure of not knowing when they're going to school, when they're not, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think our younger students have really, any sort of change in routine. I mean, a long weekend is a change in routine. A week's vacation is a change in routine. So I think the month of January and February, we
Yes,
basically really, between the vacation, our preschool students I know have struggled with, maintaining that routine and having the consistency of their instruction. So it's, I think, whenever you have unscheduled time off or even scheduled vacations, it's always a change. So I think that is difficult, and I think it's hard for everybody to get into the routine. So I definitely feel as though that is. I promise next year I'll try to do a better job with the weather, but
Start
it's
now.
yeah. I'd like to start now, but it's a valid question, and it's definitely a concern.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good experience.
Have a good night. Thank you.
See you. Okay. And speaking of weather,
Weather, yes, so, snow days, the survey, kind of combined with the school calendar discussion, because I asked, Jennifer Saritas if she would put in next year's calendar, which is clearly already voted, but in case the committee wants to revisit it after tonight's discussion, because by the next meeting, we have to put in the 16-17 calendar for your approval, because we're 2 years ahead. But in any case, what I did is I sent out the Survey Monkey, and when we sent it out, we thought it was parsed out perhaps when it went out that parent versus teachers or faculty members got separate ones, but they didn't. Somehow it stayed together, so they all got the questions. So you can tell by how many people skipped a question, whether it was a parent answering probably or faculty, because in some cases we had 600 skips.
Okay.
And it's asking, would you teach during
Oh, right.
Good
yeah,
Friday,
yeah,
and
yeah.
600 people are skipping, we don't have 600 faculty, obviously. So when I handed out, we closed it out last night just to,
And just for general background, the idea here was that we wanted to get feedback from parents on one hand and teachers, thank you, on the other, to talk about
snow days.
snow days and
They're all stapled. So the big thing to consider, even as you look through this, I mean, there's only 7 pages, it was short set of questions. The big thing to consider is the fact that at the last meeting that I was at in the beginning of February, when we talked about snow days initially, it was decided that the calendar is where it is, Friday the 26th. We're not considering changing the calendar unless we were to add
Do you
snow
have
days
an extra
in.
one of these?
Hmm?
Do you have an extra one? It would be nice for our student government president to see it too.
Yeah.
how many faculty and how many parents do we have total?
Well, the faculty was just faculty, it was anybody that had an email pretty much.
Somebody responded, right?
Right, it's how many responded, but it went out probably in total to somewhere around 200.
So 90% response rate.
Yeah, it's very
From
high.
from the teachers.
Because it's not just teachers, I mean, I know that it went to some ESPs.
And parent and guardians, how many do we have for them?
It was, when we send it out, it goes out to 1,600 something altogether, but that embeds the faculty, so it's probably about 1,400.
Okay, so about 50% response
And
rate.
then of the 1,400, remember, we have overlap. There are some folks that live in town that are
Yeah.
parents and are
And
faculty.
teachers.
So,
Right.
we have a number of people that sort of do double duty there.
How many people do double duty? About 20 or so?
No, I don't think it's that high. I have to go back and count
Oh,
in
yeah,
fairness.
so it's not that many.
But it's faculty and there's ESPs, so
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
teachers and ESPs.
Yes, it's not that many.
In any case, so there were 7 questions, obviously the first one asking whether you are a parent or you are a guardian. This also wouldn't account if somebody who's a parent and a faculty member answered twice. It's possible, everybody said, most people are anxious to do it twice. So, the second question was, are you available to teach on
Yeah.
Good Friday? So you can tell, 665 people skipped the question, clearly that's our parent base. 168 folks answered it, and you can see 88.69% said yes, that's 149 teachers said they would be willing to teach Good Friday. Now, I know that I gave you the memo that came from the commissioner, and it talked about Good Friday or any day has to be a full
Full
day. While I was out at my AASA conference in San Diego, there was a huge contingency of mass superintendents there, and it was a big topic, and there are many folks who are opening school on Good Friday for half a day, and they're counting it.
How do they do that?
I imagine that they're not gonna make a large public appeal, but they just felt let the kids go, they're in school. But I will go back to the commissioner
It's a
after
strange
full day.
position to take.
I know, and I'm just letting the committee know what I was shared. I'm not asking the committee to go beyond the boundaries, ever. So, but that was what some of them were discussing. A number of superintendents said they already have Good Friday. School is in session anyway. They don't close for Good Friday. I was surprised how many districts are no longer closing on Good Friday. So,
And again, if Good Friday, for example, was a scheduled half day,
It
it would count as a full
it would
day.
have, yes.
But if it's an unscheduled half day, it doesn't count.
Seems
Which is what we,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just,
Thank you. Now you understand what we are going through.
You just made,
I heard it.
I saw it.
So, that just gives you an idea of
Right.
why we're kind of, twisting our hands saying, and I think why superintendents say, I'm just gonna open school for half a day and put it into the calendar and it will count. So, then are you in town during April vacation? I think I personally would discount this question, because if you notice how few people even answered it, a total of 166 people answered it. I believe that is from the teachers mostly. That's question number 3. I will tell you what I didn't give you was the 66 pages of data printout that came with the IP addresses. Many of the folks who can't do it absolutely had airline tickets and wrote so. I mean, because reality is, you book your flights, I'm sure you all know, you book your trips 8-10 months in advance. You would never
particularly-
imagine this kind of winter.
Particularly for April vacation,
Right,
you know,
Right.
Everybody, some
Yeah,
people
get
don't
out of
go
here.
away in February, but
exactly.
most people are dying to get out of
Yeah.
somewhere.
And the fact is, most people don't buy flight insurance as well, which they would be entitled to a refund under this condition, but why would they think to buy it? Because no one would have envisioned this kind of winter. So I think in fairness, to even think that if we had more snow days, we should consider April vacation as unfair to our families, both in the community who live here and attend the schools, and to our faculty who teach. They're very much tied up, and I would not want to consider that for their sake. The 4th question, in order to address the effects of snow days on the school calendar, the school committee would like to explore the various options, ranking 1 through 4. You can tell that the preference was to hold school on Good Friday,
It doesn't even count.
which doesn't really count.
Unless it's a full day.
Unless it's a full day. Unless you go back and revote your calendar and say you want Good Friday suddenly in your calendar,
Oh.
and then it would be a half day. And I wouldn't be opposed if that's what the committee wanted to do, but I'm not asking, and again.
That's not good, and that would be on television, that we were not being honest.
Well, no, you are being honest if you're revoting, but, it's the way it is, but you can see what the numbers are. Again, I would believe that this is mostly faculty who answered this question, because 167 answered and 666 did not. So you can see among this particular question that the teacher's choice would be Good Friday.
So this is really why we wanted it split out with teachers and families, but it didn't get done.
Well, I think it did just
You
from the
can
number
tell.
that skipped out,
Yeah.
I suspect
But
you
there's
can
no
tell.
answer from parents.
Well, you'll see, this question's repeated,
Oh, so-
fortunately.
oh.
It is repeated.
Okay,
Right.
good,
Um,
good, all right.
Send your
Question 5, are you available on Good Friday? Would you send your student or students to school that day? Clearly, this is addressing parents, and this is where I think it's indicative. 523 folks answered yes, 115 folks answered no. So you can, and that's accounting for families with multiple children. Question 6, is your family in town during the April vacation, and would you be willing to send your student to school? I think it's pretty much, it's close to a split. Again, ruling out families wanting to use April vacation. And then the last one, and this is why I believe this went to the parents in order.
Okay.
In order to address the effects of the snow days, preferred to least preferred, 630 answered, whereas 203 skipped. So I think you can see the role is reversed. This is the parents. The parents would prefer school to be held on Saturdays. That's a first choice. Interestingly, their second choice is school held during April break, but approximately 57% are willing to send their students, and the rest are not. And then the 4th choice was to extend the day, and the third choice was to extend the day. The 4th choice is Good Friday.
And how does extending the day by an hour work again?
Well,
We're
actually, the commissioner is not
Yes.
at
Not
this
allowed.
moment
Right.
allowing
Yes.
it, but we put the question in
He
there
really
because
doesn't
in
like
case the commissioner changed his standing, since there's a lot of pressure for that to be allowed, and there are districts absolutely doing that now, planning to
Right.
count it. I wanted to have it there so we didn't have to go back to families.
Right.
Okay.
Excuse me, I heard him on
That-
TV, I just happened to catch it, and was it a week or so ago? And his stance is basically, he doesn't think that it really is doing the intention, which is, the learning type of thing, it's just not an equivalency thing. However, he said, that he'll take a case by case situation, he's least preferred, he was pretty, adamant on TV, so.
And I definitely respect that, but I also, believe that if children are here on Saturday and they had a sports activity planned or a family event planned and they came here, how focused would they be versus having another hour at the end of the day? I think you'd get more out of them because they're already here and their mind is set
Right,
on
right,
school
right.
than to pull them in from something different.
And there's no restriction in terms of the teacher contract on having them stay if we were to do something like that?
We would have to work with Roseanne to make sure, but the fact is teachers are paid for 180 days.
Okay.
And that's what you
Yeah,
have
but
to.
the parents don't seem to like the extending.
Mhm.
cause that's like, you know, the second to the last choice.
Right, but again, just so we're
They like the
clear,
Saturdays.
when we left the
Yeah.
meeting on, February 11th, excuse me, left the meeting on the 11th, it was decided at this point, the calendar will sit the way it is unless we should get more snow days.
Right.
Right,
The
this isn't to
10-day
make up what
prognosis
we've already
right
done.
now,
No,
Just
We're
to reiterate,
fine.
we're only eight, or eight,
seven, 8 out
seven.
of 8,
we have
Eight.
2 more days left,
2 days left.
2 days in the
We're up to
bank.
8.
Monday and Tuesday.
I think we're gonna probably be okay.
We're eight though, right?
Seven.
I think it's,
Seven, yeah, sorry.
guys, I
Two
think it's
conversations.
Weymouth that I have some clients in Weymouth, and they're doing Saturdays, because
Yes.
I know one of my clients is a senior, and here she thought she got away with it. And
Well, they had a roof problem.
correct, they had
Yeah.
roof
Right.
problems, and she's not getting away with it. Well, she has AP classes too, so they felt, you know, even
Wanna
for the
go.
seniors, it was an issue to
Right.
have, you know, more class time.
So I have a question, on question 7, so, school held on Good Friday, the majority, 59% is their top choice, is that correct?
According to this.
So that's a top choice, the next choice would be extend the school day by an hour,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, no, second choice would be, school day
Yep.
by an hour.
You were correct.
Third would be April vacation, and the last and least palatable would be the Saturdays between March 7th and June 20th.
Oh, yeah, I thought you said the Saturdays were the most effective. I mean.
No, I was looking at my total. No, you were
Yeah,
correct. I read
yeah.
the wrong line.
Yes.
Thank you for correcting me.
Right, yes.
So it looks like of the days, the Good Friday is a couple of locations as a reasonable day to consider.
Mhm.
So question 2 is 89%,
Mhm.
no one's, it's a 50-50 chance of April vacation having people even here.
Yep.
There's, address the
Saturdays.
effect of Saturday, would you explore various options? Again, looks like Good Friday. And then Good Friday, would you send the kids to school? 82%. So it looks like at least that's the first
Mhm.
one day.
Oh,
If you
totally.
go 3 more days, then,
Mhm.
I mean, I would almost recommend, if there are 3 snow days, to use Good Friday.
But-
Because if there
We're
are 3
banking
snow
on
days.
no more.
Right, if there are 3 snow days between now and the next time we meet, we're gonna have to, again,
That's next week.
We're not meeting again that Not allowing it.
stranger things have happened.
Yeah, the psychologist amongst us is gonna be very
Um,
busy.
You know, I've seen strange things happen, and if that happens, then we would rush to decide when Good Friday would be a school day.
Right, and that would be
Yeah,
the
it
purview
is.
of the committee. That would, and
Yeah,
the
'cause
fact that.
Saturdays is the second to last choice.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard, you know, some communities, it's probably more feasible to do Saturdays. I think this particular community is very active on the weekends, and it
Correct.
makes it harder to take them out of their activities.
So
So I
Saturdays
think you
and
have to be
April.
respectful of that.
So what is currently the last day of school scheduled,
June 26th.
which is a Friday?
Yep,
Okay, and that's a half day, cause it's
Yeah.
always a half day.
yes, usually it is.
Okay. Alright, so it sounds like we don't have to take any action now, we're gonna just leave the
Right.
calendar in place, and,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we have some good information and it's very
In
interesting
case we
data
need
from
it.
people.
Right,
The other conflict we have is if we go into, use up those other 2 days, all those children who are going to ASP will not be in school. And we have one of the biggest groups going. I'm not going this year, but
yeah,
I'm just saying.
yeah, I understand
Yes.
completely, and I know that the.
And most of them are from Cohasset.
Yes, that I am aware of, and I know that the, you know, the leadership team, we always have a retreat at the end of the school year, and right now the retreat is during the last week of school, so we are no longer having the retreat. At that point, we're gonna push it out another week in order to make
Yeah.
sure we're not
The
interrupting.
ASP group is leaving on the Saturday, the 28th. What did we say, the 26th was a Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so they're leaving on the 27th.
Yeah.
So, obviously the 29th and 30th, if we use those students need a pass, so to speak,
We're
I guess.
aware,
Yeah.
the only issue would be if they left and there was, there wouldn't be a final on those 2 days, but if there was a final, that they would not be able to take that final before they departed, they'd have to take it upon their return. That's a
Wow,
rule we have
okay.
of all students
Even
in the
though
school.
it's in July.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, the students come back and take it in August, actually, they take their finals, if they miss.
Really? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's good to know.
No early
It makes sense.
tests,
It
in
makes sense.
fairness
And
to
so
the
it
kids
looks
who are
like-
still here.
And it looks like we have 4 weeks to get through.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it.
in 2
Mhm.
days.
And it looks like this week coming up is not an issue.
Next 10 days looking out is good.
Correct. I mean, actually, meteorological winter ended the end of February, and we just need to send a message up
Until
there
winter,
that that's.
Don't
From
tell
your-
Pucks
from
and
your
Tony
mouth.
Phil that. Come on.
So, that being said though, you know, we are going to be looking at the calendar at the next meeting for the 16-17 year, cause you go 2 years out.
Right.
This is obviously next year's calendar.
Right.
You have a fairly lengthy Christmas break. I'm not asking anybody to change anything, but I am putting it before the committee to say you might wanna review it and have me, and tell me whether you'd like it on the calendar for the next meeting to talk about, and whether you wanna change anything in terms of the start time, in terms of, any of the days that we have here committed, in terms of the, break in December, whether you want it to be as long as it is. We are breaking, as you can see, on the 23rd. School is closed. We do not return until January 4th. It is a little awkward because of the timing. I don't think you can even adjust that schedule.
No, we really
No,
can't, cause all you're doing is giving them off Christmas Eve. I mean, you know, the others, you really can't adjust.
The only thing you could do is push school, well, school is already open before Labor Day, but you could push it further in to August if need be, start the 31st, maybe buy yourself an extra day, but that's for the committee to decide. And I would ask that, you know, if you want, I'm happy to put this calendar back on, along with the other one to talk,
Right.
or you want
I
it to
think
sit
this
where it
calendar
is.
looks good, because you're talking the last scheduled day is the 16th. This year, the last scheduled day was what?
Well, it was the 17th.
It was the 17th.
Yes, was the 17th?
So it really wasn't that far out,
Yeah.
but then you start adding all those days in with a
Correct.
weekend in the middle, and you are at the end.
Why don't we put
Christian's
it
not
on
the
next-
least bit upset though.
That's
Yeah.
right. We could put it on the next agenda just to discuss. Well, not the March 11th. We're going to focus on the budget, but the March 18th.
I'm talking about the 18th.
Right.
This is not for the 11th.
Right. One thing that is interesting too is I noticed that, and someone actually brought it to my attention that anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 professional development days, all on Wednesdays. How do they end up on Wednesdays? But,
I inherited that schedule,
okay.
and I know you had talked to me further back, would we change it to like a Friday or something, and that's something we would have to bring before the teachers. I wouldn't wanna just.
Just to
shift it.
understand the
Yeah.
logic of it,
It was there when I arrived.
because I don't know if people feel it's good or disruptive or what. So you know we should talk
We
about
can ask
that
the association, how they feel, if they would prefer a different day of the week.
and what families think.
I think that the feeling is if you do it on a Friday, a lot of people just take the whole day off. The students, you know, the parents just take the whole day off
Mhm.
and do a long weekend with their children. But also at the last meeting when we had a discussion, I had suggested that maybe we move those professional development full days. I'm seeing that there are only 2 in the next school year.
Which
There are only 2 usually.
Yeah, but I think one year there were 3, but that's a few years ago. But maybe we move those.
Which are those 2 again?
March
Um,
1st,
It's usually
There's
usually in
one in
October and then again in
October.
January.
professional
October
development
9th.
full days, March 1st.
Yeah, October 9th.
October 9th is full.
And March
this is
1st is a
March
full day.
Yes.
Yeah. We moved it down.
Okay, so it's October 9th,
And what are you
March
suggesting?
that we have those at a different time.
Well, the one in October, we had talked about moving down into November, what would normally be a voting day on the years that you have votes, and just automatically switch. A lot of districts have switched a full day PD day on the day of voting in November. That way, folks can come and go, and you don't have to worry about queries and safety for students, and then teachers will have their PD.
But we don't have voting in our schools.
Town hall is closed, you will.
Yeah.
For
I
renovation.
think we were
We were
anticipating.
trying to anticipate
Right.
what was coming down and
Renovate.
maybe starting the move after this year or next year, possibly make the move into November, because when town hall closes, they will have to use our school or schools as the basis for voting.
The other
So
thing
maybe,
I'm sorry, Jean, no,
so
you
maybe
go.
the October 9th day, could we move that into
For November.
August?
There already is one in August.
The day before they come
Before they
back to
come in.
school.
Right,
Mhm.
no, I get that, but there are no students here that day.
Right.
So I'm saying if we do it on a day that there are no students, then it doesn't impact anything and it gives us another full
I
day.
think contractually we can't. I think it's a contractual item, and you know what, I happen to have the contract with me, that we can check later even,
Yeah,
but
why don't we check
I do
that?
have the contract with me, but I believe it's
Okay.
contractual, and that's why it's in the middle of the year.
Okay, we don't need to do that now,
Yeah.
but if we could check
Mhm.
that.
Really?
Right.
Cause
Yeah.
the contract says that,
They have to have their development during the normal,
the school
in the
year.
middle of the school year,
Right,
but
right.
I don't think anybody wants to be going to school on June 30th or
right,
29th. So,
yeah, cause we're gonna be in the same
But that would
problem.
And 4 years ago, you didn't have a single snow day, and you were in
I
and
get
out,
it.
so
But that'd be
nobody
10
knows.
snow days.
Right.
yeah,
Okay, Mary?
Just real quickly, this might be, if we can reopen this, an opportunity to make Good Friday
Mm-hmm,
a half day,
mm-hmm.
which
Right,
will then
right.
count as a full day.
Yeah.
And it,
Mhm.
people can still make their religious observances and,
Mm-hmm.
travel, do whatever they need to do.
So it sounds like we wanna look at the Good Friday,
Right.
the professional development full, and
Mhm.
perhaps even the professional development half days, and kinda understand if they could be shifted around, and what people want, and if they find these midweek things convenient or inconvenient, better to combine it with a 3-day weekend, for example, or maybe more disruptive, like you said.
right.
So, Good Friday would be a half a day of school.
Yes.
But
Just
it
a-
count as
On
a
the
full
calendar.
day.
On the
On the
calendar.
calendar, but
And
perhaps if we
16.
don't use the full complement, we could,
that would push you back to
Could
June
revote.
15th, if you
Yeah.
actually schedule that as a half day. Then the last day of school will be June 15th.
It would just be nice to give yourself
Yes.
a little cushion in
Right.
that fourth week of June, so that you're not pushed out into
Yeah.
the fifth week of
Last week,
June.
right.
I
It's
think that's
so-
a very good idea.
it's very uncomfortable in the classrooms at the end of June.
Right,
Just
so
no
presently
worry,
you're
I think.
opening, and,
So
and I
hot.
won't be too lengthy, but presently you're opening on September 1st, and if you opened on,
Sure.
August 31st, and you had a half day on Good Friday, you bought yourself 2 days.
And the teachers would be amenable to coming in on the 27th for their
We'd have to
professional
talk.
development day?
And make sure, in fairness, and I can work on that.
So we still
Katie?
have no
Oh, wait,
answers.
please, if you could state your name for the record.
So familiar. Katie Dugan, 100 Black Rock Road. Is there anything contractually prohibiting us from looking at shortening February break, making it a long weekend instead of making it a full week?
That, there is nothing contractual from what I'm aware of, and that was one of the options that I was thinking of looking at, whether you wanted to do a series, everybody's been trying to think of ideas, whether you wanna do a series of 4-day weekends, do 3 4-day weekends throughout, instead of one long week. But there are people who might already have plans to be away
Yeah.
February 2016 with tickets involved.
Cause you
I'm-
typically have a
yeah.
holiday in there,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm kind of against that on a couple grounds. First off, I think that it's really nice family time, you know, regardless, even if it, you know, a lot of people just spend their time together, just decompressing. And second off, the studies, you know, if you combine February and April and you put them together, you only are saving 3 days. So in here, the families are getting 2 full weeks off of school, and we're only saving 3 days. So, I mean, I think if we really have a very horrible winter like we did, and the Good Friday half-day thing, and the possibility of starting school 1 day earlier, like August 20, what was it, August 20, August 31st. I think those two would buy us 2 days plus the 5, and that's 7. The chances that we're gonna need more than that are highly unlikely. And if we get there, I'd rather just play it by ear and use April if we need to.
Right.
My only observance is that we're just coming off of December break, and for, as a parent, we've just had 10 days in December, and so.
I can understand how people feel this year because they just had their kids too much. I have a lot of parents who are coming to me on kid overload, and the word snow is becoming a 4-letter word. So I totally get it. It's just, I don't recommend that people make a decision after they've been kidded out.
It's not a kitted out.
Well, a lot of parents are feeling that way right now.
Well, what we should probably do is have a more thorough deliberation where everybody can say what they think, and that's another point. So there's a handful of opportunities to tweak the calendar that we can look at. If you can
Ellen Marr,
help.
63 Old Pasture Road. Maybe we could look at it coming from a different angle, and in my experience with my kids, the last couple of weeks in June when they're in school are not as rigorous as perhaps when they're in the middle of a semester or a term, such as, you know, in February or March, and that I think that students might be better served with an earlier release in June than trying to figure out how to, you know, find days within the year, and to Katie's point, maybe having a shortened February break. I think it's a cultural thing, not necessarily a weather thing, that we should look at, is how rigorous is the academic environment those last 10 days of school across all the grade levels.
Yeah, I think that's a
Point.
good point. The other thing we have to look at though, if we start dealing with February, vacation, is sports. I mean, my kids played, basketball big time, and that was like huge.
Well,
Yeah.
it's sports
Well, they
tryouts
play,
time.
they play
Yeah.
all break anyway, so
Right.
if they're in school, it's easier for the athletes, the high school athletes.
I mean,
Be
the other
afternoon
thing is February
practice.
is notoriously snowy, so if you take away February vacation, the last two vacations prior to this have been snows.
Yeah.
And so it was enough to clearly close the schools, so that, you pick up days in February, but those are the more likely
Right,
days of
right,
snow.
that's a good point.
So you may have a
Statistically
day booked, but
speaking,
it's gonna be a
yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah, statistically speaking, February is usually our most snowy time, which is especially mid-February. Yeah, no, it's all understandable. I mean,
Like,
I
Ron
think
went inside straight, if you
the end of
Right.
June is totally a hard time for kids to stay focused.
So we'll have more debate on the
Yeah,
18th.
conversation.
And, okay.
But if you took
Good
a vote
comments.
about amongst parents now, most of them would say, oh my goodness, we want our kids in school February.
Well, I would think we should,
Yeah.
after an action item from March 18th will probably be to do some more surveying, you know?
Possibly, or you might make a decision. We'll figure it out at that point.
Okay. All right.
I don't want too much time to escape for folks who are making their reservations a year in advance. I would hate to think we vote in April and so forth. All right, so
Yeah.
we're making the shift.
wipe it
Yeah.
down.
Wipe it down.
Yeah.
Just a point of order,
Totally stayed way too long.
the chair is Bill, so the vice chair is chairing the rest of the committee.
All right, so
Bye,
Meeting.
take care.
make a note of that, if you don't mind. All right. So the next thing on your calendar is a leave of absence approval. We have a teacher that has been out on maternity leave this year, and under the collective bargaining agreement, would like to take one more year according to Article 16, Section D, and then return September of 2016, and that does require your vote. It's something I would just recommend. I think it's good practice for us to support our teachers in that manner.
Any, comments?
No, I'm
May I ask
comfortable
for-
making a motion to,
Yeah, I'd ask for a motion for the acceptance of the leave of absence for, Molly Canetta.
so moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think that's part of, it's in the contract, so we don't have to have our special little meeting for extended.
No, this is just
Yeah.
contractual agreement.
Yeah,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 4-0.
Next thing on your list is there's a PSO donation in your packet.
We
didn't.
Uh,
You didn't
no,
get
we
it,
got
okay,
it.
I wasn't sure what you had received or not received as we all were coming in and out, so let me hand this out to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, there you go. Set it down. This.
Oh, I thought that there was something more to, does it?
No, it's the check,
does the
and then
back
on the
page.
Oh, it
back
does
it
on the back
explains
page,
it.
okay.
Because it's already sports.
So you can see that this is, a grant money that was given to us generously given to us by the PSO. It's in the amount of $5,760, and on the second page, you can see what it is covering. Grade 6, grade 8, and, a grade 6 through 12 item. So, it does require a vote by you folks because it is money.
Ask for a motion to accept the, PSO grant monies of $57.60.
I'll make a motion to approve for accepting, PSO grant funds in the amount of $5,760.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
them.
Any discussion?
I think it's great.
No, we're very grateful.
Yeah, I'd like to thank, the PSO.
We have to do a roll call.
Tremendous,
Yep.
there's tremendous, items that are here, the Romeo and Juliet, the Learning on Stage, the performance, it's a lot of the art support that all kinds of sports gets a lot of support, and this is, another, portion of the PSO. They've done I hope the back of the school is not totally snowed in where they did a real job with the playground, but,
We're
that's
hoping.
yet to see. But thank you, so, ask for a roll call vote.
Irene, yes.
Gina Stino.
I'm Mary McGoldrick.
Aye, Paul Schubert.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
What is the community that cares survey?
That's the survey for the high school done half and half with the safe harbor.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's for the, drug and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
okay. So is it, they used to do,
Remember
what
the
did they
other
call
one.
it before?
Dr. Gill?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we
Is
had.
it similar to that?
It is,
Yes.
it's actually a different kind of approach.
Right, no, I get that, but I was just curious if it was similar.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, there's similar information.
Yes, and we'll get
Okay.
better information, we
And
believe.
Dr.
Okay.
Gill's was done pretty, was it, the last time was 2010 or something? It was a
No.
while ago.
Yeah, I think it was
Might have been
10.
12.
Yeah, I think it was 10. My daughter was in, high
Yeah.
school, in senior year, I believe.
They did it when Francesca was there.
Really? They did
Yeah,
another
she
one?
graduated in 12.
Okay, so
Carolyn?
they did another one.
Yeah, because Carolyn's in her third year here.
So,
Student
that was
risk
the last-
behavior
Yeah.
survey,
Yeah,
that's what
they
they
read-
called
was
it.
That's
They read some of the results during the safe harbor presentation.
Yes.
right, so that was
Yeah.
2012. Yeah, so 3 years is a long time.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Especially the uptick in
But
what's going on with opiates.
this one I think will present more thorough information because of the approach. It doesn't force the
Right.
student to identify himself.
And just to speak to that, we had a really good turnout at the high school for the panel on opiate.
Mm-hmm,
That's great.
So
Mhm.
it was really,
excellent, that's great.
eye opener. Cause, basically, right now, in Norfolk County, they've had, in January and February, 32 deaths. That's
Wow.
incredibly high. So,
So the next thing, if I'm allowed to go on, is, medical letter, no, I had asked Jennifer to send that out, and I'm not sure it got out, okay.
I
Oh,
got
I
it
read email.
electronically.
Email,
I
yeah,
got
that's
it
what I
in
meant,
email.
because it came so fast, it happened while I was out on the west coast. And, I wanted to explain what this was about.
Yeah, a little back on the Metro grants have been cut from, at the state level, the 9C cut. So that occurred mid-fiscal year. Normally they would be done in the upcoming budgeting cycle, but
Right.
this was done through the governor's, action.
Yes,
There's
so,
actually two.
there's been-
We
That-
talked
that
about
is
that at the
the-
last
yeah.
meeting.
but we
One
think
November,
one's
one
been restored
February.
possibly, we're still trying to sort through what we've been receiving in the mail. As I said, we got the letter that said we're having a cut, at the same time, we got an email that said the cuts have been restored, so we're not sure which is accurate yet. We're gonna hope that the cuts have been restored for fiscal 15 is the accurate one,
For Metco.
for Metco.
Okay.
So what happened was, and what I wanted to explain to the committee was, right before I left, there was a meeting at the State House, and all of the Metco directors were invited, and all of the superintendents who have programs in their district were invited. I communicated by conference call, because I could not manage the snow with my cast, so they allowed me to call in, then a number of people did. I know Alicia Gittens-Carl, our Metco director, also called in. There were few in attendance, but most people were calling from their offices due to the snow issues. Nonetheless, what came out of it was what needs to happen with the Metco program moving forward. There's concerns that it will be outpricing itself and districts will no longer be able to support it.
Right.
That when you look at it statistically, when the program began in 1967 until today, the monies that have been given to the Metco program have been minimal, and they haven't kept pace with the rest of the budget. And so there's a lot of discussion of how it's impacting all of the districts. This letter was constructed over the course of 2 weeks between some lobbyists and the superintendents. And then basically, while I was away, there was a series of folks that had school committee meetings. I wasn't at ours. And some of the school committees actually voted to approve the letter. And I had notified this group that I was out in California at the time, could not put the letter on the table when it came out, and asked if we could do it after the fact, if the committee wanted to make a vote to support the Metco program and support the letter, would I be allowed to do so? And they said yes, that would be fine, because they know that letter will go back again, and then the committee's name would be added if the committee so desires. So I wanted to give you the letter, as you can see in the back, all of the superintendents who have approved it, as well as a number of the committees that have approved it. There have been some additional committees since the letter went out recently, because the emails have been coming in, but I wanted to make sure that the Cohasset committee had the option to look at the letter and decide if you wanted to support this letter or not.
Right. I think it's a very good letter. I'm very much saddened by the decrease in support for MECO. MECO was a tremendous, important thing for my family, and I was very involved in MECO. Not just my family, our MECO student, but many other MECO students. We were that kind of the hangout house for MECO, because they often had to get here. Sometimes we had a 2-hour delay, and they had no place to go except the school, so they came to my house, a lot of kids. And many of the students, it was just the one of the most changing experiences in their lives to have the type of education they had in Cohasset. And I think it would be just horrendous if this continues, because it's just, a way to, and MECO, and I think it would be really sad. MECO, just for the history of MECO, it started because it was supposed to be a temporary program, that there was supposed to become equality in city schools, in Boston. But as we know, that hasn't happened. And until that ever happens, we need a program like this. And I think you could speak to how the city schools are not the same as
They have not
supposed.
reached that point
Yes,
yet.
exactly.
Absolutely. My concern, of course, is, we'll be talking to the committee next week during the budget. It is having a negative impact on our budget as well, but we're looking for ways to make sure we can continue to keep the program with us, because it's part of our culture and a part of our fabric here in the community, and what we can shift around to make sure that happens. But at the same time, I wanted you all to have the opportunity to be a part of this letter if you felt so, you desired to do so.
You
Peter
look at the
has-
second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to
Sorry.
comment, on the second paragraph there, it really emphasizes that the MECO graduates, not only do they enroll, but they graduate and go into higher levels of education in
Yeah.
college. So it, not only is it a program that is helpful for students from town, in town of Boston, but it's a successful program, so
Right.
it's a cost that is, I think, bearable by us, and we should do it. Yes?
Thank you. Peter Pescatore, Advisory Committee. If,
Address?
12 Lantern Lane, if the funding you're talking about was embedded in your budget, the METCO funding, and you subsequently were defunded in some way by this letter during this fiscal year,
Yes.
that would qualify for a reserve fund support.
Oh.
Because it is an emergency, it's an unexpected situation. So you could come to advisory to fill that gap, if those conditions exist, that it was budgeted at X level and was reduced, unexpectedly, with no notice, then that would be a situation that you could come to reserve.
Would that also apply
Thank you.
for any other grants that are subsequently cut,
Like the kindergarten
Kindergarten
grant or any of the others?
or any of the 9C cuts, or,
It
for
would
example,
come-
the Chapter 70
It would
monies?
have to be unanticipated.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so a few years back, the Chapter 70 monies were cut mid-year and were not restored until later, so would that be an option as well?
Not really, because the Chapter 70 money goes into the general fund, and what you get for an appropriation is just
What you
that.
get.
So then the kindergarten.
I'd have to check with the town council, because you do just get an appropriation.
Right. So
You
then the
just
grant
do
for,
get one number.
That's,
yeah, but the grant from, let's say, the kindergarten grant, which was also cut, we can apply for that as well through the,
That's a 9C as well.
that was a 9C cut.
They're
Who,
both 9Cs.
who cut it?
The state
government.
did.
State, yeah,
State cut
they're
it?
both,
Yeah.
yeah, they're both state grants.
Yeah,
They both came out at the same time.
Is that in this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
15?
This current count, budgeting year.
Yeah, I'd have to, again, the technical issue is whether we're allowed to, because you do get just a lump
Right.
number.
Right, right.
But it sounds like the situational part of it would qualify. I just have to get a clearance on,
Yeah,
I
Let's ask
think
for
we
it.
can.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Alright, so we'll,
Thank you.
Yeah,
we'll
but I'll
check
check
in.
on it from my side.
Alright, we'll
Yeah,
check in
nice
with you.
cut
Thank
to
you.
make sure that-
And I said we'll ask,
Thanks,
well, we
Pete.
should ask for it.
Remember, you're on camera when you're telling us that, right? You're on camera telling us that, right?
No, I'm just here by accident, cause I was at another meeting.
Thank you,
That's
we'll be in
Well,
touch
I
with
guess
you
I would
over
ask
that.
the committee if the 9C cuts do qualify, should we approach the advisory committee or the, wherever the monies may be available,
Yeah,
to ask for that, and that's
I
reasonable.
think
Yeah,
that that's a
support that.
reasonable
Absolutely.
I
request.
think that's
Okay.
totally,
It wasn't something that was
Go ahead.
anticipated by any stretch of the
Correct.
imagination,
Right.
so.
totally no.
And it might
Thank
be
you.
that, thank you, we might discover that in the case of the Metco 9C cut, that it has been restored. But we still seem to need a day to figure it out.
Sure.
Their letters and emails are overlapping, so we will let you know for sure.
Okay.
So they did say that they restored
Well,
first
our-
cut?
Well, it's kind of-
So it's,
I don't-
I got an email yesterday from the government, from the state that said the fiscal 15 cut for Metco was restored, and then Louise Demas got an email today that was different, that says the fiscal 16 cut will be restored.
Oh,
Oh,
goodness.
And then I got a letter that said, here is your cut. So between the two emails and the letter literally arrived at the same time the email did, that said it was restored, so we're really trying to get clarification at this point, in fairness. And we don't mean to sound
Yeah.
ambiguous in any way to the committee, we just haven't been able to get a clear answer yet.
Right.
And the person I deal with at DESI, was still expected an amendment on METCO, so she didn't hear anything yet either, one way, I mean, she heard that there was the cuts, but now we're hearing something different, so
and then,
we're still working with that on that.
in the MASC, update, it says Baker plans $105 million increase in school aid.
Right,
You
I
know,
gave
I mean,
that,
Right.
Yeah,
Back and
Right.
forth, because I
Right.
think I saw the same thing in one of these,
yep, sure.
right,
so.
So I'd ask for a motion to approve the letter going from the superintendents
I'd like,
and using the committee as support,
yes,
in the support of the letter.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes, aye.
Thank you, I truly
You can
appreciate
add
it,
the committee
I
to the
feel
bottom
that
of the letter.
be a hole
And
in the
thank you,
district
Mr.
without it.
Pescatori, for
Yeah.
informing us.
Yes,
I'll
thank
do
That's
that.
really important.
Let's see, I'm making sure and one piece of information to inform the committee, I just wanna make sure in case you receive any phone calls that you don't feel that you didn't have what you needed at the moment, but as a leadership team yesterday, we sat with the principals, and because of the many, many snow days we've had, all of the schools are moving marking periods back in order to have some parity among the different semesters and quarters and so forth. So we wanted the committee to be aware that we are doing that. If you ask me for the specific date of each of the schools, I can't tell you right now, I cannot remember them, I left them behind and can't run this time. But, at the very least, we want the committee to be aware that between the high school, the middle school, Deer Hill and Osgood, they're changing when things are going out based on the snow days.
In terms of educational question, about the AP, they're not going to be changing the AP
I was just
exam.
gonna ask that.
And so what, have you talked to the, instructors in AP?
I've talked to
The
Carolyn
division
about it,
depart- yes.
and I'll have Carolyn do some work, I'm not sure where that's going to go right now.
Right,
I don't have an answer for you today, I probably can have an answer for you next week and to the 15-second.
yeah,
Give it to
cause
you
I would
before the-
hate our students to, not do as well because we
Right.
didn't do something to
They've
mitigate.
missed almost 3 weeks of instruction.
Exactly, and
We know.
I know that in Weymouth, one of the big things about doing the Saturday school was for that very reason.
Exactly.
'cause-
Yes,
And we can't really do a whole lot else. If you do it after the AP, that's not gonna help.
no, we know, we
So
know.
any of the school days you add to make up in June aren't gonna help the people, who are taking AP exams, I think in May, mid-May?
Mhm.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly,
Usually about they start about the first week
correct.
and go through a couple of weeks.
Right.
Let me make a note of that and I can report out to you.
And it's gonna be a little crazy because every school district is gonna do it different, but everyone's taking the same test.
Yes. Well, I can tell you also that we chose as a district, after speaking with the principals, the DESI came out and asked if we wanted to push back our MCAS testing this year.
Mm.
There's a series of tests that will automatically be pushed back, and then there were a series of tests we had to choose to be pushed back. I consulted with the principals, Dr. DeCiara and Mrs. Conley, and they both requested that we push them back. So I filled all that out, that had to be done last week.
The other point about the AP that helps us, that Mrs. Demas may not think it's a big issue, is that we have block scheduling here. And because of that, we have more instruction time compared to other districts when it comes to any class, and also definitely AP, which is a year-long class. So she may feel that because of that we're stronger anyway. It's kind of like we have days, hours in the bank, so to speak.
Right, she knows that, but she also knows
Missed a lot.
missed time
Yes.
is missed time.
Yeah, oh, I
14
know.
classes missed is 14 classes
Yes,
missed.
it's
There's
a
no
lot.
way around it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, I will check in with the teachers, so I'll check in with Mrs. Conley, who I asked to check in with the teachers. But I did want you to know some of the provisions that we're making because of all the snow days we've had. Okay, that is what is on my list for today.
So next up is, finance, warrant 15-15 Sierra, and ask for a motion to approve warrant 15-15 Sierra.
I'll make a motion to approve warrant 15-15S.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call vote.
Eileen Lee.
Hi, Gina Stino.
I'm Miriam Goldrick.
Aye, Paul Schubert. And ask for a approval, for a motion to approve the warrant 15-01 Sierra India.
I'll make a motion to approve warrant 15-01SI.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And roll call vote.
Eileen Lee, yes.
Hi, Gina Stino.
I'm Miriam Goldrick.
Aye, Paul Schubert.
Yeah, no concern.
No. The second, just for the committee's information, the second one is related to the flood damage.
Okay.
That's
How
the
mu-
insurance,
But the insurance covered it all?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Well, there's some of it. There's always something.
Well, they've covered this warrant.
There's always
Yeah.
something that's gonna show up.
They've already sent us a payment.
And then, just the budget, fiscal year 16, quick update.
David, so there's some of our damage that won't be covered under insurance?
No, we have a deductible that won't be
Yeah.
covered.
Okay,
but it
what's our
should-
deductible?
I believe it's 2,000.
Okay,
But,
so that we have to find ways to pay that 2,000?
right, yes, yeah.
That's unexpected.
Exactly, yes, I just don't have.
Good one.
I like that word. As long as my kids don't use that. I have this unexpected expense, Mom.
It's flowers, Mom.
So just a quick, just a quick update. We met with the administrators yesterday to discuss how we can cut the budget to fill that gap of $358,905. And we talked a lot.
3.5 hours.
And we looked at positions that we had to cut, and we looked at supplies and materials. We were looking at the entire budget, but. I guess that's next week's meeting. We'll come back with some, I don't know if they're recommendations or some ideas or.
We'll come back with what the principals are proposing that they can live without, even though we might need, but what we will have to work without in order to make sure we meet our numbers. And clearly, whatever's on that list, it's then going to be behoove the committee. It's late, without water. The committee to decide what you believe we can live without.
Yeah.
We can put forward an awful lot of things, but you might not be in agreement with what we're putting forward. We just know that we have
Right.
made a promise to the town that we will meet our number, and we feel we have to.
And when you come up with this, what we can live without, can they also, the principals, address the effects of
Yeah.
that being out of the budget?
Do we wanna have the principals here
We
next week
probably-
as well?
Yeah,
We asked them to come
probably
the 18th, would you like the principals here next Wednesday as well?
Anybody? Levin?
Yeah, I think that's a
If
good
they can
idea.
come,
I'm gonna,
yeah.
I think it's really important. I'm gonna
Okay.
switch my
Yeah, me
plans
too.
around.
Alright, well
Sure.
we'll send out an email tonight to them.
Yeah, I guess the one good thing is that the state budget, both chapter 70 and grant, monies to local towns and cities, increased, but it looks like we got a much lower percentage than what the rest of the state got percentage-wise for the chapter 70.
Right.
So we got, I think, 1.67%, it was estimated to be 2.5, 2.4%, so we got a little less than what expected, but at least it's more than.
Yeah. What was there?
It's more than what we anticipated,
Yeah.
yeah.
As well as the town also, the general funds also are higher.
Right.
So that's the governor's budget, it's gotta go to the State House, through the House, and then through the Senate. So over the last 20 years, there's not been any drop in the governor's budget, there's been only additions, so I think this is the floor. Revenues are good for the state, so I suspect it's gonna, if anything, be the floor or maybe a little bit more.
Question,
Mhm.
how much more than anticipated did we get?
About 35,000.
About 30,000,
Okay.
30 to 35, I think it is,
Very
35,000,
small.
yeah, small amount.
So will that be part of our, like, making up that 350?
It doesn't initially come to us.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, it goes to the town.
it goes to
Yes.
the town directly,
Correct, that's
because
right.
we're,
So
we're
the
way
town to
above
decide.
that,
Yes.
You know,
the
certainly
budget is way
we can
above
ask
that,
the
you
town
know.
manager, say this monies are unexpected,
Right.
so we could potentially ask that to be added in, because that is money that would normally not have been budgeted.
But we'd have to look and see what town manager, what he anticipated for chapter 70, I don't have the sheets in
Oh,
front of me,
what
but,
he anticipated, right.
you know, that's a big piece of it.
Right.
I mean, we have what the governor presented, which is 1.67 over last year,
Yes, yeah,
percent.
right.
Okay.
So we wanted you to be aware of where we're at, and we'll have one more meeting with the leadership team before we come back next week and meet with you, but we didn't sit in a room and just, you know, check off things that we thought should be removed. We really asked the principals to be reflective. We sent them off initially for a couple of
Beforehand,
weeks
right, yeah,
beforehand and said,
right.
you know, look at what you think you can take out, and there were some sacrifices that have been made, there's no doubt that we prefer not to make, and the committee will have to decide if they're comfortable with some of those sacrifices. I think that list will change again though before we come before you on Wednesday, but we have a number to make.
Any communications?
I just wanna make a comment, I was at the selectmen's meeting last night, just, hearing Chris Senior talk about the budget as it relates to DPW, and, Brian Joyce did a presentation just on all the snow removal activity, and what an amazing job they have done.
And they're still
And Mark
going.
Kelly, and, I just think we should formally acknowledge and thank, because it's really been Herculean what they've done.
I agree.
I would ask for a motion to thank the DPW. I can tell you, my front yard is about 8 feet deep, and
Well, the lawn
And-
chair's nice on
I
top of the
know.
snow though, Paul,
We'll
that's a
wait for
good lawn.
spring, we'll
Oh,
wait
no,
for-
you're not supposed to
wait for
save
sun.
spaces that you.
I know.
Is that a
Did
parking
in
space?
Boston, I'll do it.
No, it's right on the top.
Yeah.
Top of the-
My dogs love all the snow because they can reach the tree branches. It's 8 feet.
Pretend they're cats?
drip.
What?
Yeah, well, they can nibble all.
Yeah, so is there a motion for the thanks for the DPW?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Totally
Is there a
make a
second?
motion. Yes,
favor?
all in favor,
Aye.
yes,
Aye.
aye.
Huzzah.
The other communication, there's the career day, which is next
Tuesday.
Tuesday night, at the high school. A whole group of professionals in town, people in town are getting together to discuss what their
Exciting.
career choices and changes have been over the course of their, careers. And it's, I think, gonna be a very good way to get the students who are looking at different options of what to do for a living, what to do with their lives, as a way to plumb the waters.
They could be on school board. Someday.
Tim
That's
O'Neill's
not a
on
career.
board.
So, in some places it is.
Doesn't it feel like a career?
In some places it is, some places they get paid.
Yeah, right.
Any other?
No.
All good?
And I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye.